Okay, Burgosers. I want to call people who watch our videos something.
Okay, boogers.
Like the Burgos bites. These are Burgos bites from the Burgos experience.
Okay.
So our Burgos bites today, it's going to be about healthcare. We have, since we got here in April, we've been to pediatrician multiple times, dentist a few times, emergency room at the hospital, the optometrist. We had got the health insurance initially, and then now we're about to renew it so we can compare cost and processes with that. And we've gotten plenty of prescriptions, both with and without prescriptions. Hey, they have.
Yeah, he's.
Leave it. Okay, so firstly, the pediatrician. So we were in Saragossa, we went to the pediatrician, and I want to say the language was primarily Spanish. It's not a situation where there was a fully bilingual pediatrician, but they are very patient. They gave me time to understand, like my husband could understand everything, but they could usually understand my questions, and I could usually understand some of what they were saying, and they would take the time to make sure that I understood, like letting him translate or letting me ask questions or whatever. We never felt rushed, right?
No.
We never felt rushed. We went multiple times. Like we literally did not even have to make an appointment.
Yeah,
we just
that's true.
can go.
They actually said one time when Josiah needed the inhaler, they said, you can just come over right now and pick one up.
Yeah, they had hours where you could just show up. I mean, we never had to make an appointment ever. Sorry. What else? They have like an online like computer thing where you can talk to the doctor from home. Jonas! Yeah. Gosh. He's gonna fall. Oh, man. Look at yourself in the camera. Come on. Hey. Okay. And they're really good with the kids. You know, pretty thorough. And not, you know, like making them uncomfortable or anything like that. And there were often, sometimes I think like once or twice they had like students, you know?
Oh
students
yes, they also had students in there. That way they can, it was like for their security, I think it was, or...
I think they were just learning. They were in college.
Yeah, they were learning, but at the same time, every time that I went there with, a couple of times that I went there by myself with the kids, they needed to have someone else in the room. Just for their own security or what.
Okay, so the cost is zero because with the health insurance that you have to get no deductible, no copay, so you don't pay for anything when you go. Sorry. The first time we went, we had a problem with our health insurance that our card was no good anymore because the agent that we used did not update our NIE. So when you get here to Spain and you get your actual residency card, you need to make sure that your agent or that you call your insurance company and make sure that they update your health insurance to put your NIE on it, because when you buy it, you're in your home country and they put your passport number on it. And you want it to have your NIE number, and if you don't, then when you go, you won't be able to use it. So the first time we went was to get an inhaler or a prescription. We just turned off the light. Turn it back on.
Turn the light back on.
Or to get, we thought we were going to get a prescription for an inhaler. But what they did was our card wasn't working. It wasn't effective anymore because of the NIE thing. So we had to pay 25 euros, which is pretty affordable. That's actually what we used to pay in US dollars converted to pesos in Mexico for at home for the pediatrician to come to our house.
You got a light?
Oh my gosh. So there's that, and then we didn't end up getting the inhaler. We got a prescription, and he told us to go call someone in Andorra to get the inhaler because they don't sell the inhaler that we were wanting to get here. It's a singular inhaler.
Dude, come over here and sit down.
Okay, so What happened when you tried to call Andorra to get them?
Oh no, they told me. Well, to begin with, they did not have the inhaler. So we had the same thing that you guys have in Spain, and it was gonna cost like $20, 20 euros to ship it from Andorra, and it was the same thing. So I was like,
But they didn't have it.
no, they didn't have it.
Okay. And we also had gone to Portugal right after that doctor's appointment and tried to get it there and couldn't get it there. So that was a singular inhaler that we had been using, that the pediatrician in Mexico had suggested for our son. Since then,
Not
we
this one.
found out that he could use albuterol. And so we also found out that you can often get them for €3 at the local pharmacy. So you went to the pharmacy and you asked for it, and they were like, no, you need a prescription. So then you went to
Another
another
pharmacy.
pharmacy and they gave it to you, right?
No, actually, that lady at that pharmacy was like, yeah, I can't give it to you. You need a prescription for it.
Sit down.
And I said, you know what? What happens if you can get to a doctor?
Because it was late.
It was late, you know, and you really need it for your son. Your son is having problems breathing. How does it work here? You know, she's like, oh, you need a prescription, and I'm like, I can't get a prescription. So she's like, you know what? I see that you're kind of like worked out. You know, I was like very, yeah, I was like anxious and stuff like that, and she's like, I'll just give it to you. And she gave it to me, you know.
So argue your point, and maybe you'll get what you want.
Yeah, I know, but you know, make sure that you let them know that, hey, it's important that I get this because my son can't breathe, and you know, it's nighttime, and I can't get to a doctor. And I think the next day or so, I went to a different pharmacy, and no prescription. They
They gave it to you.
just gave it to me, no problem.
So we got the one that night, and then we went to a third pharmacy, and we got another one, so we would have
Yeah.
two. So we never did get a prescription for that. Okay, so there are other medicines that we got that we would go, like ibuprofen. Do you have to have a lot of people say you can't get ibuprofen here. That's not true. You can get it here. You just don't buy it at the regular store. You have to buy it from a pharmacist, but you don't need a prescription, right?
No.
You just have to go and ask for it. What else? What other medicine? Like we one time needed hydrocortisone cream, and
Oh yeah, that was
and there was like the same pharmacy in Zaragoza that was open 24 hours, but they would always tell us no, we had to have a prescription. And then there was another one that was not open 24 hours, but would always give us whatever we went in and asked for.
yeah.
Anything.
Oh, that lady one time I went when I got that, she started making jokes. Oh, you know, you sound like your Spanish accent sounds just like Mexico and blah blah blah. So I started like, oh okay, yeah, you know, let's go on with this. So I started, you know, making
like
friends
build
with
a
her.
rapport.
Yeah, exactly. And the last time that I went to the pharmacy, she remembered me, and I was like, yeah, from Mexico, blah blah blah. You know, orale.
But you're not from Mexico.
No,
right?
but I'm not. So she remembered me, and she just gave me the stuff, no prescription whatsoever.
Okay, so then there were other prescriptions that we did have to have, which were for like antibiotics. There were some strong antibiotics that our baby was on. So moving into that, we've had a hospital experience here because our baby came down with what we did not know at the time was an infection, and he ended up having to go to the closest hospital. So that was very stressful. That was in October. It's about 2.5 months ago. We tried to call 911, which is 112 here, and ask for an ambulance to come and get him. But they wanted so much information, like not just our address, you know, and phone number, like they do in the U.S.
They're like, what's your name? What's everything?
But our address, his full name,
Yeah.
our health insurance.
No,
stuff.
not even that. It's like, you know, they wanted details of where I was, you know, what type of was he having seizures, and did he, you know, a bunch of
They
information.
were asking a lot of questions and
and-
not sending the ambulance right away.
Yeah, and I'm like, do I really need to give you all this information? You can't just send an ambulance over. And it's like, I really need this information. I need to ask you I mean, it was irrelevant. It was totally irrelevant to what we needed to tell them.
In the U.S., when you call for an ambulance, they'll say, okay, someone is on their way, stay on the line, I'm going to ask you questions, and at least you have a peace of mind to know that they're coming. This is why you can't do this with kids around. But where else are we going to send them?
Go that way.
So, sorry, I need to fix the camera. So, we ended up walking. We walked to the nearest hospital that we could get to, and we got there and they wouldn't see us. They wouldn't see us because he was a kid, and they said, we don't see kids here, and they told us to go to the kid hospital. So we had to call a taxi, and mind you, like, he had developed a swollen thing on his head, so we were super
One of the glands
freaked
that
out.
we have here.
It ended up being a lymph node that was infected and swollen, but we didn't know that at the time. They did tell us there, like, tranquilo, it's okay, it's an infection, they're gonna drain it, and it's, you know, like, don't panic, basically. And they told us where to go, so we called a taxi, and the taxi took us to the children's hospital. We got there, we gave them our private insurance card. We had no idea what kind of hospital it was, just that that's where you took kids, and they took him right back. It's called urgencias, it's not called emergency room. And you can go there for urgent care or emergencies. It's kind of like the urgent care in the U.S. plus emergencies.
Yeah, it is the children's hospital that is locally in the city of Zaragoza. The other hospital was that. It was more like for any other type of urgencies. The one thing is that when we got there, yes, they took our insurance card, and immediately they were like, oh no, you have to go and get in line over here. And I was like, look, it's an emergency. My son can't breathe. He has a lump on his neck.
He was struggling to breathe because of the
so I showed the guy, and I'm like, I really need someone to look at him right now. And he's like, okay, let me get someone else. So the people came out of the emergency room, and they looked at him, and they immediately took him inside.
Yeah, so I have learned since then that there's different levels of care here, and depending on how big of an emergency your situation is, that's one. Depending on how big of an emergency your situation is, they will either make you wait or give you priority care.
You're saying he was calm?
I'm really sorry. I don't edit my videos because I don't have the time. So I don't know what to do right now. But I'm
gonna go. I'm gonna take Jonas to take a bath. It's bath time.
Okay. Okay, so my husband's gonna go get him a bath. Maybe I can finish this while they're doing that. Alright, so we got treated, you know, I would say pretty well, and maybe I can do a separate video on that because I want to go through all the different types of medical care here that we've gotten through, and I want to do it fairly quickly, and I'm already at 15 minutes almost. So he ended up being in, having to have anesthesia to have the swelling drained, and he ended up being in the hospital for 10 days before he came home. And so with that, he was on 3 different antibiotics and had a whole bunch of tests. It ended up that our private health insurance did not want to pay for the care because it ended up that we were at a public hospital, and that's 2. You should probably do something else. So we went to we found out through this process that this hospital was the only one that did the procedure that we needed. And so because of that, our health insurance company told us to give them a justification letter from the doctor saying that this was the only hospital that would do this procedure and that we had to be there. And we gave them that, and they still didn't want to pay for it. The reason they didn't want to pay for it was because we did not first go to a private hospital and then be sent to the public hospital where the procedure was to be done. So, you know, it was an emergency. For us, it was potentially life or death because we did not know what this was on the back of his head. And I thought, you know, if it is an infection and it busts, it could kill him. So I wasn't going to go to another hospital just for a paperwork trail. So now I make sure, like when we moved here to Murcia, I made sure that I looked and saw where the hospitals were so that I would know where to go first. instead of just going to the closest hospital. In the US, I would go to the closest hospital and that would be that. But here you want to make sure you go to a hospital with your insurance. Okay, so we've also been to the dentist, and I've been to the dentist. I had a crown that was on my tooth and it broke. That they did a x-ray. The dentist spoke some English. So I got the crown replaced. It was 400 euros for the whole thing, the whole process. We also found out through that experience that apparently dentists in Spain do not do cleanings on kids. I'm not sure if that is totally true, but that's what this dentist told us. I've already found a children's dentist here in Murcia, and I'm planning to go there and ask them if we can get our kids' teeth cleaned. But what I'm hearing from them is that they don't do it. That's what they told us in Zaragoza. Let's see what else. My husband had to get his glasses fixed. He had the piece, like the nose piece right here, that broke on his glasses one day, and he just walked in there and got them done. No appointment, nothing. They fixed it, and then they told him, you know, we want to fix the other one. The other side is a little loose, and so we would like to fix it. But I know you're in a hurry because he was going to pick up my son from school. So if you'll come back another day, when you can stay longer, we'll fix it. So he said, okay, I'll come back by tomorrow. I'll stop by when I'm going to get my son, and I'll drop the glasses off and you can fix them, and then I'll come and get them whenever I get him. And that's what he did, and they were fixed. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about is the health insurance cost. When we got the health insurance in April, it was good through March 1st. The day we had to have at our consulate, when we got our visa, we had to have our health insurance start. It had to be starting with the visa submission, not after we arrived. So our health insurance, even though we didn't get here until April, it started March 1st until December 31st. And it was, I think, around $2,700 US for that time. Now it has lowered, and it is, I think, going to be about $2,500 US. And I talked about in my last video that the reason it costs a little bit more maybe than other families of four is because we have a baby, and under 3 years old, the kids are more expensive. His cost is literally, my baby alone is what all three of ours are together, and it's because he's under the age of 3. Okay, so that's it. I'm sorry that this was another crazy video. Hopefully that doesn't bother you too much. And I have forgotten to ask, but if you have gotten anything from my videos, if you could give me a thumbs up, a comment, a subscription, subscribe, share, especially subscribing and liking and commenting.
Could we get money from that?
No, we don't.
We could get money.
No, well, we're not going to be getting any.
And I just found an emergency button in this house to call 911.
I don't think so, but anyway, so I'm going to go before things get any more out of hand. This subscription, this YouTube channel is not monetized, so just want to put that out there.